Good morning. Today is Tuesday, January 27, 2026. We heard the news yesterday that the body of Ran Gvili, the last Israeli body that was being held by Hamas for over 2 years, was returned to Israel for burial. There's a rabbi in Modi'in. I see him quoted, but I'm sorry, I don't know his name. His name was not quoted. But he said yesterday, on a day filled with both heartbreak and meaning, we witnessed the return of Ran Gvili, a true hero of Israel, for burial in the land he fought to protect. You remember I told you what his mother said about him. First in, last out. Rabbi Josh Broyd commented, "What touched me most is how this moment reflects who we are as a people. We do not give up on one another. We do not forget our fallen. And we never stop believing that even what seems impossible can still happen." A number of people made the connection to this week's Torah portion. As the Jews are leaving Egypt and everyone is preparing for this exodus, Moshe involves himself in preparing to take the remains of Yosef and his brothers back to Israel for burial. They would have been the last Jewish people still in Egypt, and Moshe took responsibility for making sure that the last Jewish body was returned to Israel for burial. I've shared this before. The fourth bracha of the benching, which includes the words Hatov v'Hametiv, God is good and does good. That bracha, that fourth blessing, fourth paragraph of the benching, Birkat HaMazon, the grace after meals, was added by our rabbis to commemorate the miracle of what happened to Haruge Beitar. So Beitar was the headquarters of Bar Kokhba and his rebellion that took place a number of years after the destruction of the Second Temple. Bar Kokhba led a rebellion against the Romans, which was actually quite successful for some time until the Romans put it down with great force. And many of Bar Kokhba's soldiers were killed in battle at Beitar. And the Romans, in their cruelty, did not allow anyone to come to bury those bodies. So all of the hundreds of bodies of the soldiers lay unburied for years. And when finally Jews were permitted to come to bury those bodies, a miracle had occurred. And the bodies, in all those intervening years, the bodies had not decomposed. And so the rabbis wrote this blessing, an expanded form of V'hatov v'Hametiv, God is good and does good, to thank God for this miracle. And just as those bodies were finally brought back to burial after a very, very long time, the same feeling and the same response should be our response to what happened yesterday. We said this in Shul. I invite you to join me as we say this blessing today again. Baruch atah Adonai. Blessed are you, God. Eloheinu melech olam. King of the universe. Hatov v'Hametiv. You are good and you do good. We express our tremendous gratitude and the immense effort of so many people to bring Ran Gvili's body back to Israel for burial. I want to share with you a completely different subject. A story I heard recently from Rabbi Melech Biderman. Decades ago, this was probably in the 50s, Bnei Brak, now the suburb of Tel Aviv, which is a Haredi community, it's perhaps the largest Haredi community in the world. And it is grown in leaps and bounds and continues to grow exponentially. But decades ago, it was very small. The population was very small. And surrounding it was just open land. There was nothing there. Now, of course, there is not an inch of open land anywhere near there, because now it's part of metropolitan Tel Aviv. But decades ago, there was land all around. And at a certain time, there was the opportunity for anyone who wanted to buy large tracts of land around Bnei Brak for pennies. Because people thought at that time, what is it good for? You can't do anything with it. No one imagined how valuable it would become, except for a few people who did have that foresight and invested, again, pennies on the dollar to buy large tracts of land. And as Bnei Brak expanded, and as Tel Aviv and its suburbs expanded, that land became very, very valuable. And the people who had invested, again, just pennies when it was empty, became extremely wealthy. Yes, it's true, most of the inhabitants of Bnei Brak are of very modest means. That's an understatement. But there are individuals who have amassed great wealth. And of course, their generosity is largely responsible for the growth of Bnei Brak and all of its Torah institutions. So there's a man an elderly man, who in those years, in the 50s, he was offered this chance to buy land, again for pennies. And when he became older, he told this story to his grandchildren about how people bought land, it was so cheap, and now it had become so valuable that they were extremely wealthy. So his grandchildren said to him, Zaidi, but why didn't you do it? You said it was pennies. Why didn't you buy some of that land? By now you would have been a wealthy man. This was a family of very, very limited means. You would have been so wealthy. Why didn't you do it? And the older man thought for a while, probably remembering, and he said, I just didn't think of it. That's the truth. I just didn't think to do it. But then he continued, and he said to his grandchildren, but this I promise you. When I reach my 120 years and my soul comes before God, God is going to ask me the exact same question. You had the opportunity to do so many mitzvos, so many good deeds for pennies. It's so easy to fulfill God's will. Yes, of course, there are many commandments that are difficult. There are many that require effort and sacrifice and avoiding temptation, but there's so many that are so easy. refrain one time from saying Lashon Hara, that's a tremendous mitzvah. What does it take? A moment of self-control. Pennies. And the reward for that would be enormous. Learn one verse of the Torah. One pasuk. What could it take? A minute, 2 minutes? It's so easy. Say thank you. How easy could that be? Just to say thank you. Smile. We've talked about this before. Just to smile at someone is a mitzvah. It takes nothing. It's pennies. And he told his grandchildren, every one of us is going to be asked that question. You could have done so much more. It was so easy to do. Why didn't you do more? What will be our answer? What will be my answer? He told his grandchildren, I don't have an answer to give you. But what answer will I give God? And then he said to them, to his grandchildren, don't make the same mistake I made. If there's something that it takes only pennies or moments, and it's so easy to do, and the possible return on investment is so enormous, don't wait till you're 120 years. Start now. So I want to apply that story to telling you about someone. I heard about this from Sivan Rahav Meir. I heard about it from other sources also, but the way she puts it, I think is very, very important. Recently, Israel and the Jewish people lost what she calls a pillar of kindness, a person of tremendous greatness, not so well known here outside of Israel. His name is Rabbi Uri Lapoliansky. In his younger years, he was a humble father of 12 children. He had a personal struggle, and he turned that struggle into what became Yad Sarah. Now, Yad Sarah, first of all, to just about anybody in Israel, it would not be necessary to explain that. It is one of the largest and best-known nonprofits in Israel, and it has been replicated all over the world. It is an empire of mercy, and it has, without exaggeration, changed the face of Israel. And it began decades ago with very modest beginnings. Here's the story. The Lapoliansky family needed to borrow a small vaporizer for one of their children. And somehow from that one little request, soon people started to bring other medical equipment to their apartment. They started to bring walkers and crutches and wheelchairs. And the apartment started to fill up very quickly. And before long, they added more equipment and increased their number of volunteers and established branches in places. There is I think it's the central location in the middle of Yerushalayim. And it became a gigantic organization devoted to lending all kinds of medical equipment to people that need it. CPAP machines, wheelchairs, walkers, anything you could imagine. Thousands of different things. Now, not only do they lend this kind of equipment, they provide health and home care support, all kinds of efforts, myriad efforts for anyone who is sick in Israel. Anyone, religious, non-religious, Jewish, not Jewish, anyone. A couple of weeks ago, Rabbi Uri Lapoliansky passed away at the age of 74. This organization that he founded and started from such humble beginnings, Yad Sarah, it's been awarded the Israel Prize. That's Israel's highest award for achievement in Israeli society. And it has helped millions of people. And it has inspired other organizations, as I mentioned, to open in their model around the world. Sivan Rahav Meir writes, he ran this enormous organization with a calm and unassuming manner, always with his famous warm smile on his face. I had the opportunity, she says, of meeting him recently, and he was, as usual, busy at work and overflowing with kindness. Then she adds the following Dvar Torah. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, and that week the Torah portion was the Parsha of Shemos, the beginning of the second book of the Torah. So she said in this week's Parsha, the Parsha of Shemos, we read, Moshe grew up and went out to his brothers, Vaya'ar besivlosam, and he saw their burdens, he saw their suffering. The Torah is telling us that Moshe noticed the suffering of others. And this is how the redemption from Egypt began, with Moshe paying attention to the suffering of his generation and trying to help. And that's why he was chosen by God at the burning bush, to lead this effort. And this is how Uri Lapoliansky began his public service, by noticing the needs of his fellow man. And Sivan Rahav Meir concludes, thank you to that young father and his decision so many years ago that has changed the face of social services in Israel. Even while his funeral took place, the many branches of Yad Sarah did not close in memory. Sometimes a person who's the head of an organization or a business, the business will close on the day of their funeral. No. Even while his funeral took place, the many branches of Yad Sarah remained open and continued his life's work of providing care for others. It all started with one vaporizer. Such an easy thing. And it leads to the greatest and most important kinds of wealth. I saw this quote from Viktor Frankl. We are defined by what we do with what is left. It's so easy. A moment, a penny. Remember the models that we have of people who did not take for granted those small actions and became spiritually the most wealthy of all of us. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.